And with that being stated, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we're hanging out here with Mr. Mike Sofka, where sports truly meets that thing called life inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, having some fun in the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub with Mr. Mike Sofka. Week 15 of the NFL is where we are at, and we are here to have some fun with you. So with that being said, let's bring in the man of the hour. Mr. Sofka, how are we doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well, and Mike, we are going to hop right into things for Week 15. A lot of great stuff coming up. It's National Signing Day. The great state of Florida is going bananas, I am sure, because of National Signing Day and what that means. So I don't know how you are doing, but I would love to ask you the question, is it what do you think is more of a frenzy right now? And I want you to really sit here for a minute, and I want you to think about this. So, get your thinking cap on. Make sure you're ready for this one. My question to you, Mr. Sofka, is National Signing Day, in your opinion, is it what is more of a frenzy in the great state of Florida? National Signing Day, or is more of a frenzy trying to find somehow, some way to get yourself some toilet paper? What's more of a frenzy down in the state of Florida, signing day or toilet paper day?
Well, it's close because, if you're not careful, you can get some players you're going to need some toilet paper to remove. So, you absolutely have to have both. So it's balance. It's like offense and defense on a team. You have to have balance. You have to have the TP, and you have to have good recruits. But, we're fortunate in the Sunshine State here, us, Texas, and maybe California. California's fallen off a bit, but, and then some in the Northeast, Pennsylvania and Ohio, but basically the big three right there, California, Texas, and Florida. This is where most of the recruits come from, and I think that's partially because of the weather. I think guys can play, and there's even 7-man football, there's flag football, there's regular high school football, then you have specialized academies, specialized IMG academies down here, specialized training. So there's a lot to offer, and a lot of these athletes, they're just great athletes. This is where the athletes are coming from. So, you got to be where the hay is if you want to make hay while the sun shines. So you got to have the location, and you got to have timing. So yeah, it's an exciting time of year. It's always fun to watch who goes where and who commits and who decommits, and who surprises at the last minute. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
It's always Christmas come early, and some really cool things going on for football fans. Every year the NFL has these Saturday games that pop up somehow, some way, and Mike and I are going to be talking about them in just a minute here, but not before we get to our Thursday game. Let's start things off, Mr. Sofka, with the Chargers at the Raiders. What do you have for Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, well, the Raiders are looking for some defensive help. So if you can play defense, Dan, they're looking for you. They need help. They fired their defensive coordinator, and Gruden was friends with Gunther, but, it is what it is. He had to make a move there. They're not paying him $10 million a year for to make moves and not to make things happen. And it looked like Derek Carr was playing well. It looked like the team was, it's kind of like the Rams of old. Remember when they narrowly beat out Tennessee in that Super Bowl? They would go, okay, we have to put up 45 because our defense is going to give up 44. I mean, if you score 27 points, that should win you a fair amount of games. Well, not when you're giving up 44 points to the Colts. I mean, I know the Colts are a decent team, decent quarterback, but you can't give up 44 points to them in your own crib. So I think this hangover is going to continue for them, even though somehow magically they're favored in this game. I don't know so much. Derek Carr, he's number 16 on my rankings. Josh Jacobs, number 8, so there's your money right there. And, of course, the only reason why Derek Carr is 16 is because he's got Darren Waller, the number 2 tight end. I can't trust any of the wide receivers for Vegas. Maybe a Hunter Renfrow. But he's number 52. I mean, that's an emergency. If you're in a large league with a deep bench, play him. But, yeah, no, not so much across the board. The Chargers are a sneaky team. The Chargers have the magic 4 numbers. What I mean by that is there's 4 primary positions here: the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. All 4 of their guys are top 10 plays this week. Justin Herbert, 7. now, number 5. Hunter Henry, number 8 on the rankings. So with that in mind, that's where all your value lies. I would play those guys in some daily leagues as well, because why not? If the Raiders are going to let you go like a matador, you got to play those guys. I'm going to take the Chargers to win this game.
Yeah, this is one of those things where, the Raiders, I didn't think that coming into the season they were going to be a strong team. And then they surprised me a little bit. And I look at them and I say, okay, I thought they were going to be, I thought the Jets would be the worst. And I thought that the Raiders would be, second worst, that they'd be right there. Now, Raiders are 7-6 this season. They're behind only Kansas City. Kansas City's 12-1. They're only 2 games better than Denver. And yeah, Los Angeles Chargers are at the bottom of the barrel in the AFC West at 4-9. Yet I think the Chargers have more overall talent. And that is what I look to when it comes to fantasy and who we tell you to play. We look at that overall talent. So starting with that on the Chargers side of things, I want to first and foremost go to the Chargers and say, in this game, Justin Herbert's worth the play. Now, there's a lot of injuries. So Austin Eckler didn't practice early this week with a quad injury. Josh Kelly could be the guy to go with in this one. Keenan Allen is also limited with a hamstring injury, which you have to watch, especially with receivers and running backs. Mike Williams is in a place right now where he didn't practice early on in the week. So, Justin Herbert's got to throw to somebody. We don't know who that's going to be, but he's got to throw to somebody. Hunter Henry's also been injured. He's questionable. If he's able to play, he's worth the play for you. If not, then a sneaky pickup and a sleeper tight end is Donald Parham Jr. coming to you from the XFL, because Justin Herbert will have to get the ball out to someone, and that tight end's going to get some action if Hunter Henry's not able to play. So circle Donald Parham, who could help you in your fantasy football playoffs. I like Herbert in this one on his side, but due to a lot of injuries, can't really lean on a lot of the Chargers. On the Raiders side of things, Josh Jacobs is hurt, and so that's something that you have to look to here. He's limited in practice. If he's able to play, then I would tell you he's worth the play, but he is downgraded to a lower-end running back too, in my opinion. And I can't really trust anybody in the receiving corps. Henry Ruggs III is on the COVID-19 list. Hunter Renfrow is a wide receiver 4, which puts him in a situation for you to be a sleeper wide receiver. But Darren Waller's where it all is. So basically, Justin Herbert on one side and either Hunter Henry or Donald Parham, and on the other side, Darren Waller. I'm looking to the tight ends in this game, and I'm going to pick the Chargers. I'll agree with you, Mike, and pick the Chargers to win this game. Next one up that we have on the docket, after speaking on the Chargers at the Raiders, the next game that we'll hop into here for the schedule is going to bring us into the Saturday games. We have 2 Saturday games on December 19th. Don't forget to set your lineup. It just so happens to be championship week for college football and college football makeup game week, and it's the NFL playing, so you're going to have a lot of stuff on television, and that is pushing these 2 games to the NFL Network, but which is a travesty if you can't get it, because there's some good teams playing. Playoff teams are playing, Buffalo and Green Bay to name those. Buffalo at Denver. Mike, what do you have for this?
Yeah, it's going to be a game to see who's not too high. What I mean by that is, well, the Broncos are coming off a high. I know Drew has to be careful with his highs and his lows. He's either good or bad. He's up or down. He's too emotional. He's got to be even keel. I know guys like to separate, but you threw 4 TDs, but it was against the Panthers. Yeah, it was in their grip, but it was against the Panthers. Yeah, they really can't move the ball and had a bunch of people out with COVID, and they could barely field the roster. But do you understand what I'm saying? Denver has got the same thing happening here, okay? Denver is high from that win. Buffalo's high from that win over the Steelers. Now, we called that last week. You can go ahead and pause this show right now and go back to last week's show and find where that is, because I'm telling you, we called that, and I'm going to call it again, I think. But I got to go a different direction here. I'm wondering, is this not some sort of trap game for Buffalo? This is the real test of their mettle, to see how they can hold up in this game. They got to travel to Denver. It's a Saturday game. They're coming off that high of beating Pittsburgh. They're showing themselves. Josh Allen is steady Eddie. He's the antithesis of Drew Lock. There's a lot of value on Buffalo's side, starting with Josh Allen, like I said, number 4 on my rankings. Stephon Diggs, number 3, and Cole Beasley, number 13. team. That's because Josh Allen is playing well. His release is improved. He's better at decision making. He's not afraid to step up, not afraid to run. Devin Singletary, speaking of running, number 25 on the ranking. Zach Moss has fallen off the planet. Dawson Knox has showed up and down. I can't start him anywhere because, well, I don't know what I'm going to get. And on the other side of the ball here, when I'm looking at Denver, it starts with Drew Lock. Like I said before, he's got to be even keel. I don't think he's going to be even keel because I think the Buffalo defense is going to swarm all over him. He's number 27 on my rankings. Melvin Gordon still has a looming DUI, but that got tabled through January, so I don't think that's going to affect his play through the championship weeks here in fantasy. Right now, he's number 24 on my rankings. Philip Lindsay, 43. I can't start wide receivers. Those guys are ranked in the... And I got Noah Fant at 4. You know, I said both teams are coming off tremendous highs on their recent wins. I think Buffalo is going to let their emotions be in check. They're still not going to be too high. They're going to come back to earth. I think Buffalo is going to win this one, but the Vegas boys say 6.5. I think it's going to be closer than that. I still like Buffalo for the win.
Yeah, I think, like you said, this could be a trap game. This could be a 16-14 type of game. I don't disagree with you on that, but I am going to go with Buffalo as well. We did call Buffalo to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and and it's the first thing that came to my mind when I saw Buffalo beat Pittsburgh. I went, wow, well, we obviously thought that they're capable. We thought that they could. And we thought that they would, and they did. So congratulations to the Bills on their big-time win over the Steelers. The Steelers were undefeated, and then Washington found a way to take them down, and then Buffalo found a way to do it in back-to-back weeks. So for the Steelers to be undefeated and then to take back-to-back losses, that shows you how quickly things can change from being a team that is 11-0 to being a team that's 11-2 on the season so far for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they've already clinched a spot in the playoffs. For those of you wondering, they're already in the playoffs, of course, with 11 wins, but back-to-back losses they've taken. For me in this game, Buffalo, first and foremost, Josh Allen's worth the play. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, these guys are confusing me. Zach Moss leading the team in carries recently here, and in Sunday Night Football, Devin Singletary being quiet. But the reality of it all is, I mean, these guys are just, it's not looking fantastic. You know, it's not looking great by any stretch of the imagination for either one of them as far as fantasy goes. I can't sit here and tell you I'm leaning on anybody. And, Zach Moss, 13 carries for 43 yards, Singletary 7 for 32. Both of these guys are running back threes because, number one, who's the guy? Number two, what are they going to do? Yeah, Zach Moss led in carries, but he only got 43 yards off of it. So not much to write home about. Stephon Diggs is back and doing his thing, so you got to put him up there. Cole Beasley worth a flex for you. Gabriel Davis has risen to number 2 and has scored in 3 straight games, so he is worth a lower end 2, higher end 3 in this matchup to put out there, in my opinion, to play. On the other side of it, for the Denver Broncos, Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon are both injured. I would choose Gordon over Lindsay, but right now it looks like Royce Freeman, he would be a running back 3 for you. Jerry Jeudy is currently hurt as well. He's questionable with an ankle injury. That raises the stock of KJ Hamler and Tim Patrick, in my opinion. Tim Patrick has scored his 6th touchdown of the season recently. So Patrick is a wide receiver 3 for you, and Nick Vannett puts himself in a better position as Noah Fant has an illness that, God willing, he gets okay from coming up here very soon. That puts Nick Vannett in a situation to be a tight end 2 for you, and as I said before, I'm going with Buffalo. Next matchup that we have, and another Saturday matchup again, we are telling you repeatedly, set your lineup. Don't forget about Saturday games. Carolina at Green Bay, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, this game confuses me in a bit because I think Green Bay's got a lot more talent than they do, and where they're not showing their talent is on defense. They're coming off a narrow win. They let Detroit back in the game. They let Detroit score 10 points on them in the fourth quarter. You can't win a 7-point game. You know, I know it was on the road, but it was Detroit. Detroit's horrible. End up in the game. He's got a rib problem. He's questionable to make this Wouldn't be surprised to see Chase Daniels. And, with that in mind, Chase Daniels is going to be 28 on my list. So you can't start him anyway, so it doesn't really matter if Matt Stafford's going to make the game or not. But if he does make the game, obviously he's got some value. He'll be number 16 on the rankings if he makes the game. DeAndre Swift, number 11 for Detroit. Kenny Golladay still in there.
Mike, we're going to, and we'll get to, and we'll do, I don't want to interrupt, but we'll jump to Detroit and Tennessee in a second, but I want to go with Carolina and Green Bay in this one, and then we'll hop to Detroit.
I lost my place here. I'm sorry.
No,
Don't worry.
No worries.
No, it's all right. Green Bay. Let's go right to Green Bay because that's where all the value is. That's where all the Aaron Rodgers, number 5 on the rankings. Aaron Jones, number 5 on the rankings. Devontae Adams, number 1 on the rankings. And Robert Thomas, 11 on the rankings. So, all your value, of course, is on Green Bay. And I don't understand how they could let Detroit score those 10 points on their defense. But, Carolina doesn't really have that offensive power with these guys that were recently out with COVID, with injuries. I don't know who's catching the ball. I do know that Christian McCaffrey may not make the game yet again. Mike Davis, number 12 on the rankings. Even if CMC makes the game, I think he'll be limited. If I was Carolina and his injuries are that bad, I would just shut him down. Teddy Bridgewater, number 19 on the rankings. Robbie Anderson, number 17, and DJ Moore, number 32. The better value fantasy-wise is on Green Bay's side, and the money should be on Green Bay's side. But again, if they let Detroit stick around within 7 points, I don't know how they're going to cover 9 here against the Panthers. But it is their home. I think they're going to win by about an 8-point margin. So I'll still take Green Bay, but I think they might not cover.
Yeah, I got to take Green Bay in this game against Carolina as well. Green Bay obviously coming in here with their sights set on the playoffs and being in good footing. And, Carolina in a period of, transitioning with their coach, with Matt Rule being in his first season there, with, Teddy Bridgewater being in his first season there and whatnot. So it's all going to take some time, and they'll get there and they'll figure it out and they'll get right with it. But in this other Saturday game, I got to go with Green Bay. Carolina first, as far as fantasy goes. Christian McCaffrey is doubtful for this game. Mike Davis puts him in a position to be worth the play. I downgrade him a little bit, but Mike Davis is worth the play in this. Robbie Anderson, also worth putting out there for you, but he is a wide receiver 3 in the matchup. And P.J. Walker, shout out to him for making it from the XFL and Temple to being the number 2 guy. Guess who went to Temple? Matt Rule. He knows all about P.J. Walker. So that's a good thing that this coach and this quarterback have that connection. And obviously the trust in him is showing, and that's an awesome thing. Aaron Rodgers on the other side is worth a play for you. Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and Robert Tonyan worth the play in this one. And Alan Lazard is questionable with an abdomen injury, which puts Marcus Valdez-Scantling as a potential flex for you with the value. I agree with Mike being on the side of Green Bay and the win being on the side of Green Bay. So I will second that and say Green Bay all the way in this one. The next one that we have up, Mr. Sofka, in this matchup week for Week 15 is Tampa Bay at Atlanta. And this is obviously a divisional matchup in the NFC South. What do you have for this?
Yeah, these are teams that are just going in 2 different directions. Tom Brady's got this ship running right for the Buccaneers. My only question is who's going to be running the ball? Leonard Fournette, healthy scratch last week. Ronald Jones, broken finger. Don't know if he's going to make the game. LaShawn McCoy might be in for a spot start or to get some more touches this week. So there's really situation in flux in the backfield. Luckily, they got Tom Brady. Tom Brady, number 10 quarterback on the ranking this week. And lucky for him, he's got some talented receivers. The only ones I can play, though, Mike Evans, 22 on the rankings, and Chris Godwin, number 33 on the rankings. And Rob Gronkowski, still top 10. He's worked his way back up into that top 10, and he's been there the past 4 or 5 weeks. He's definitely got that connection back with Brady. He's number 9 on the tight end rankings. On the other side of the ball, though, there's 1 or 2 bright spots, all right? And one of the reasons is, Julio Jones has been dinged up. If Julio Jones can make this game, he's probably going to be on somewhat of a pitch count. He's number 42 on my rankings, but all the balls are going to Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, number 4 wide receiver. Hayden Hurst needs to pick it up. He's totally inconsistent. Number 16 on the rankings this week. Todd Gurley, 36 on the running back rankings, and Matt Ryan, number 17 on the quarterback rankings. The challenge here is for Atlanta to be able to keep up with the firepower from the Bucs. There may be some big scores in this game due to lapses in each team's defense, but I think the Bucs defense is a little better, so definitely going with the Bucs in this one.
Yeah, you know, we take a look at this matchup and what's going on here, and you know, like you said, Atlanta, I mean, they're looking for a new head coach and a general manager. Bruce Arians and the crew down in Tampa are 8-5 behind New Orleans 10-3, looking for an opportunity at the playoffs with Tom Brady in another jersey. This was a team that was at the bottom of the barrel, a 4-win type team before Tom Brady got there. Shows you how much he can change something around. So I want to start with Tampa Bay in this matchup and discuss where they're at, and then head off to the Atlanta Falcons, who will have the home game in this one. But, you know, the reality of it all is, yes, these teams are in two different directions, and Tampa Bay is moving in the right direction. Not as good as fans would hope at 8-5, but still in a place where they're a playoff caliber team. So Tom Brady worth the play in the matchup. Ronald Jones is hurt, undergoing surgery on his finger. That puts Shady McCoy, who you forgot was even on the dang roster, that puts him there and gives him an opportunity. Leonard Fournette, hasn't done much of anything. So he is playing the Falcons. That could help him. Keyshawn Vaughn had 1 carry despite being activated. So I would lean on LaShawn McCoy if you're going to play anybody. I put him as a running back 3. Keyshawn Vaughn as a flex guy behind him. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are worth the play. Antonio Brown as a flex, a sneaky one. And Rob Gronkowski are worth the play as well, as Cameron Brate hasn't done much of anything as of late, and O.J. Howard obviously is still injured. On the other side of it for the Atlanta Falcons, I would tell you that Matty Ice, quarterback 2, we know that he knows how to air it out. You know what, so let me put him as a low-end 1. Matt Ryan, not a bad one to put out there. He's going to air it out to Calvin Ridley. They're going to try and shut him down as Julio Jones is questionable with a hamstring injury. Russell Gage as a flex for you potentially as well. And so we look at Laquan Treadwell getting his first touchdown with his new team of the Falcons, but he's too low on the chart here. I'd say Gage is a wide receiver 4. Ridley still a 1. Hayden Hurst has been underwhelming, so only had 1 reception recently. Jaden Graham had a lone target as well. So the value lies with Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley. Todd Gurley hasn't done much of anything, so he is a low-end running back 2, in my opinion. Really, the value's on Tampa's side. The win is on Tampa's side. And Atlanta, you got Calvin Ridley and Matt Ryan. That's really all you can write home about. Next one up, San Francisco at Dallas. This used to be a game that would decide who was going to the Super Bowl. Now it's just a game. What are your thoughts for this, Mike?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Tom Landry and Bill Walsh are rolling over in their graves looking at the records of both of these teams, looking at the suspects of even having to watch this game. You know, it's incredible. Now, Dallas did come off the big win at Cincinnati. Andy Dalton's homecoming back to his place where he spent many years there, eating some chili mac, eating that Skyline chili. Look, I think the chili in Texas is a little better, and they're always talking about what Russ is cooking. Well, Dalton cooked a little something in that game. I'm happy for him, but still, it's the Cowboys. They're not going anywhere. Both these teams have losing records. I think they're packing it up, and I think they're playing for next year. But you look at some of the fantasy value, there is some value here. Now, I'm looking at San Fran, and I'm going, wow, who's their wide receivers? Well, the only wide receiver I would play would be Brandon Ayuk. Looks like Deebo Samuel's done again, injured. Brandon Ayuk, number 7 on my wide receiver rankings. And a blast from the past, Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed, number 13 on the tight end rankings, because he's going to be like a Dallas Clark again. He's going to be a guy that is going to catch the ball. He has to be, because they don't have any wide receivers. Their running backs have been dinged up. Raheem Mostert, number 21, if he's a go this week, he's injured. Look out for him. Sneaky play of the week, Jeff Wilson. You may be able to pick him up. He was on my waiver wires, select the guys I'm telling you to pick up each week. Number 29 on the rankings, and Nick Mullen, number 29 on the quarterback rankings. Can't really start him, but that's just because he doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to. On the other side of the ball, though, Dallas, Andy Dalton, decent performance last week, did enough to get the win, but number 21 on the quarterback rankings this week. Ezekiel Elliott, number 9. This is a guy who used to be in the top 3 all the time. He's been slipping as of lately, and Tony Pollard's been sneaking some touches. He's been almost out-touching Zeke. I know Zeke still has that lower extremity problem, so Tony Pollard, a guy to look out for, number 47 on the rankings. There is some value with Amari Cooper at 18, CeeDee Lamb at 35. I can't play Michael Gallup. I can't play any of these tight ends for Dallas either. Look, this game's in Dallas. That used to mean something. San Fran, I don't know how they're still fielding a team, but I'm going to go with Dallas, the home team, to win this game. I know San Fran's favored by a couple, but I just got to flip a coin. I got to go with the home team here. I think if you can run the ball, they should be able to do that. If you can play a little bit of defense, which both teams can't do that lately, hey, I got to go with Dallas.
Yeah, I got to go with Dallas in this one, too, just because of the fact of, I lean more on them to get this victory than I do with San Francisco. San Francisco, unfortunately, coming with a Super Bowl berth with their first full season of having Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, and it didn't end up working out in their favor as Kansas City got the best of them. And now this season, Corona and injuries have gotten the best of them, and I pray for speedy recoveries in every way, shape, and form for everybody on the team, because this has been a very trying season for the San Francisco 49ers on, when you look at offense as well as defense. It's not just on one side of the ball where they've taken a lot of hits. They've taken hits all the way through. I told you to always circle the game when somebody's going back to a team that they used to play for, because it tells you what could happen. And granted, this game didn't have Joe Burrow, but Andy Dalton went back into Cincinnati, and he beat them down, reminding them, hey, you let me go, I'm going to make you pay for it. 30-7, they get the victory. 4-9, the Cowboys are on the season. Eldon Smith had a 78-yard fumble return in the game. Amari Cooper had a touchdown. Tony Pollard had a touchdown in the matchup, as well as Zeke had 12 carries. Pollard had 11 carries, and they were very close there in yardage. Pollard with 39 on 11, Zeke with 48 on 12, and then Amari Cooper led the way, followed by CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz with Michael Gallup after that. The issue with the wide receiving core in Dallas is it's hard to figure out who the guy's going to be. They kind of just rotate around. It's Amari, then it's CeeDee, then it's CeeDee, then it's Michael, then it's Michael, then it's CeeDee. So, that's how we've been looking at things this year. For the 49ers, it's really hard to tell you to play anybody. Jeff Wilson is your best bet, but he's a running back 3 at running back. And then Brandon Ayuk is a wide receiver 4, I would say, to put out there. Jordan Reed, not a bad play. I'd call him a low-end tight end 1 this week against the Cowboys. And then on the other side of it, Zeke is still worth playing. I think he's a running back 2 right now just because he hasn't put up big numbers. Tony Pollard is a flex guy for you and an emergency guy for you. Amari Cooper is worth the play. CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup are still worth the play. I got CeeDee a little... It's hard. This is where it gets difficult. I think CeeDee and Michael are both wide receiver 3s. They're flex guys for you right now. And Dalton Schultz is a extra tight end. He's a tight end 2. I'm going to lean on the side of Dallas and say the boys are going to get to 5-9. And it's funny because all the teams that are 4-9 right now, like the Cowboys are, they're eliminated from the playoffs. But because they're in the NFC East, they might still get it, says Borat. So with that being said, they're not out of it yet. Detroit at Tennessee, Mr. Sofka. I know we started about this earlier on today. We were talking about Matt Stafford and whatnot. So let's head to blue versus blue. Detroit at Tennessee. What do you got?
Yeah, I just don't see how Detroit can win this game, but I do see how you can win with some fantasy value on the Detroit lineup. And Tennessee, I'm surprised that, Roger Goodell is letting Derrick Henry stay on the Tennessee roster simply because he owns the Jaguars, and we'll talk about that later. But, he just flat out owns them every time they play. but he owns a lot of teams in this league. So Derrick Henry's the top guy to play in this game. Number 2 running back, Ryan Tannehill, because they have that great running game, he can be consistent throwing the ball because he's got some good guys to throw the ball to. Ryan Tannehill, number 12 on the rankings this week. A.J. Brown, number 9. Corey Davis, number 31. Jonnu Smith, not so much, but number 19 on the rankings. The tight end that you're going to want on the other side of the ball, T.J. Hawkinson, number 4 on the rankings. Not sure about the wide receiver situation. Kenny Golladay is still questionable. Has been out for a couple games. I got Marvin Jones at 26, but look at Kenny Galladay's injury situation as we get close to the game time. DeAndre Swift, number 11 on the rankings. And I think Chase Daniel may get the start. Look for Matt Stafford to be at about a 16 on the rankings if he gets the start. But I'm more confident it's going to be Chase Daniel who will check in at number 28 on the rankings. I got to go with the guys who have the best player on the field, and that's Derrick Henry, the running back for the Titans. I'm going to take the Titans in this one.
Yeah, I got to take the Titans in this matchup by all stretches of the imagination. I mean, Tennessee is a team that, I know when it comes to Jacksonville, they're always dangerous against Jacksonville. We know that. But in the reality is they went from being just dangerous against Jacksonville to being dangerous in general this season and to building off of what they had in their successes last season. They've done some good things, and they should be commended for it because it's not that it's a fluke. There's been consistency with Tennessee winning. Being a thorn in Jacksonville's side inside of the AFC South division is great. Being a thorn in the side of the NFL is better when you're trying to win championships and get yourself into the playoffs. So Matty Stafford is hurt right now. He's questionable. That would put Chase Daniel out there. DeAndre Swift is healthy. And let me say that again, DeAndre Swift is healthy. And to the people out there that are frustrated, DeAndre Swift is healthy because I know for a couple weeks he was burning a lot of us out there. So DeAndre Swift worth the play. Adrian Peterson goes down to a lower-end flex guy because of that. Marvin Jones, wide receiver 3, just because of the quarterback injury situation. Kenny Golladay is questionable in this one. T.J. Hawkinson, no matter who plays, what did I tell you? When the backup quarterback comes in, what do? You trust your tight end in the short yardage stuff and, like check down stuff, right? Your tight end's right by the line of scrimmage. Your running back's right by the line of scrimmage. So look for T.J. Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift on Detroit's side. On Tennessee's side, I like Derrick Henry in this game. I like Ryan Tannehill in the game as a low-end 1, high-end 2 at quarterback. A.J. Brown worth the play as well, but he's a wide receiver 2 in my opinion. Jonnu Smith only had 2 catches. Jeff Swaim hauled in a touchdown recently here. Anthony Ferkshire, his production's going down. So Jonnu's not the outright guy like Delaney Walker used to be. So I would say Jonnu's a tight end 2, and so is Jeff Swaim. Really the values in Derrick Henry, and then I see some in A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill. I'm going to go with Tennessee in this matchup. Next game that we have up, Mike, before we take a step aside for a fast break, Houston at Indianapolis. I feel like this game just happened, but we got another one. What do you got?
Yeah, it does feel like it just happened. It's going to be deja vu all over again here as, the Houston goes to Indianapolis. See, these are, again, 2 teams heading opposite directions here. Indianapolis coming off that big win on the road. Phillip Rivers able to lead the team, keep them balanced, but they're balanced mostly because of their tremendous running game, and the dangerous combination is Houston can't stop the run. That makes Jonathan Taylor the number 1 play in this game, number 7 on the running back rankings. Phillip Rivers, because of that running game that he can rely on, is number 13 on the quarterback rankings. T.Y. Hilton's back. He exclaimed 2 or 3 weeks ago that he was back, that he's finally fully healthy, and he's been showing it. Number 16 on the wide receiver rankings. Michael Pittman, 41. Trey Burton, number 23 on the tight end rankings. Across on the other side, Deshaun Watson, number 8 on the quarterback rankings. He's going to find a way with his legs to keep his team competitive. He's going to have to do that because he doesn't know which Johnson's going to be running the ball. Was David Johnson, he got hurt, then Duke Johnson. Now Duke Johnson's hurt. We're back to David Johnson, number 27. On the running back rankings. He's got some guys he can throw the ball to, but none of these guys are going to jump out and win the week for you. Jordan Akins at tight end, number 18. Kiki Cootie, number 28. And Brandon Cooks, number 38 on the rankings. So there's going to be some balance. There has to be for Houston to have a chance because they cannot stop anybody, especially on the run. I'm going to go with the team with the better run running back, and that's Jonathan Taylor and the Colts.
Yeah, I got to go with the Colts in this game. The Colts are in a different place than Houston. Like I told you, and this is not saying that Houston doesn't have talent on their team. Everybody in the NFL has talent. It's hard to make it. So, I would just tell you that, like I felt before, Houston was winning the division of the AFC South because other teams were just subpar. They weren't really getting pushed. They were winning, but they were the best team in a not great division. Now that Indy's gotten better, now that Tennessee's gotten better, it's exposing that Houston, in my opinion, was winning the division, not because they were great, but because they were good enough. So with that being said, I like Deshaun Watson in the game. Kiki Kuti, I like him in this one as well. And, outside of that, that's kind of where I see the value lie for Houston. On the other side with Indy, Jonathan Taylor worth the play in this matchup. Nyheim Hines, 75 yards from scrimmage. He's worth a good flex for you. Michael Pittman Jr., I like him as well in this. He's a wide receiver 3. T.Y. Hilton's also a wide receiver 3 because he's inconsistent. And Jack Doyle and Trey Burton trying to figure this thing out. Second leading receiver of the game was Jack Doyle. Trey Burton, no Week 14 target. So Jack Doyle, a tight end 2 for you. And I'm going with the Colts in this matchup. With that being said, Mike and I are going to take a step aside. You are listening and watching the Fantasy Football Power Hour right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. Myself, Dan Tortora of WakeUpCallDT.com. We both bond together on our Facebook group, which I'd love for you to join by going to Facebook search bar and typing in Winning Fantasy Football on Facebook. You can join that group for free. And the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, will be back right after this to give you more Week 15 advice for the 2020-2021 season, and more than likely your fantasy football playoffs. Happy to help, happy to be here with you, and always thankful that you spend some time with us every single Wednesday, as well as throughout the week. Because once this goes live on Wednesdays between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time, it gets sent out to you on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, and it gets archived on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on the Winning Fantasy Football Group page on Facebook. So you can always go back after Wednesday and get your information Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. That's why we do it on Wednesdays, so you have it all the way through. We're happy to help and happy to be here. This is Wake Up Call inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, and more fantasy football coming up for you right after this.
Avicoli's Restaurant, located right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, is proud to be your local neighbor, growing with you for over 20 years. We're open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. For takeout, delivery, or catering, call us at 315-622-5100. When you order online and use our promo code AVS10, you will save 10% on your online purchase at myavicolis.com. And make sure to join us monthly for our live on-site broadcasts centered around Liverpool athletics. Avicoli's, your local, trusted neighbor right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out. Trapper's Pizza Pub, located on 5950 Butternut Drive in East Syracuse. Right off of Bridge Street is your local community supporter right around the corner. Join us on site at Trapper's Pizza Pub for our live monthly broadcast supporting Central New York student athletes and their sports programs. Call 315-438-4444 for more information. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Trapper's Pizza Pub. Trapper's Pizza Pub, your local community supporter, right around the corner.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, Mike and I are proudly bringing you the Fantasy Football Power Hour, presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Make sure you head off there today for their dining in, as well as their opportunities for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery at 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222. So make sure that you get a hold of them, especially today with it being a Syracuse basketball game day and a midday game day, so you can watch the game while getting something from the great Wildcat Sports Pub and watch the game, get some pizza and wings, and hang out and have a good time. So awesome stuff coming up here from the Wildcat and all of our partners here in the community, and we thank them so much for all that they do. With that being stated, Mike and I have more games to go here for Week 15. We're going to run through the gamut as we are here on a National Signing Day, so there's a lot of great stuff going on in the world of sports, and so we'll go to our next matchup here, Mr. Sofka, and that will be the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. What do you got?
Well, New England coming off that drubbing after they stayed in L.A., thinking that that would be the best move for them. They got pounded last week. And, Miami was able to put up 17 points on the Chiefs in the fourth quarter and almost make a comeback. They almost make it so they could win the game, had themselves in a position to win the game. But you can't win the game when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes. It's just not easy to do. The Patriots are moving their practices to indoors. It's cold up in the Northeast right now. What the Patriots are doing is they're going to crank up the heat because they expect it to be pretty sunny, pretty balmy weather, around 78 degrees on Sunday. So far cry from the weather there right now. Look, New England's got some value to them, but I don't think they're going to have enough value to go into Miami to win. However, when these teams play, you can usually throw out the records. The challenge is Miami's having a hard time fielding a team. I don't know if they have any wide receivers. I don't know if they have a tight end. I don't even know if they have a running back. One of the hottest names out there on the waiver wire, Lynn Bowden. We may see some more of him. DeAndre Washington started last week for them at running back, but, he didn't make the most of that opportunity. Tua, you know who I'm talking about, Tua. Number 22 on the rankings. DeAndre Washington, 33 on the rankings. Salvin Ahmed, number 51. I can't start any of the pass-catching guys for Miami. On the other side of the ball, not a lot of value either. Cam Newton, he has some value because he likes his own number, especially near the goal line, number 20 on the quarterback rankings. Looks like Damian Harris, number 31 on the running back rankings. James White, Sony Michel, they're in the 40s and 50s. Jacoby Myers, Damari Bird, they're in the 40s and 50s. Can't start a tight end, so I don't think there's a lot of fantasy value in this game, but it might be an interesting game to watch. It usually always is. I'm going to go with Miami still to win this game. Even though they're shorthanded, even though Belichick's a great coach, and even though he's doing all these things to make sure they're competitive when it can't be, even though Miami doesn't have enough guys to field a team maybe, I still think Miami's going to find a way to squeak one out.
Yeah, the New England Patriots, a losing record here down the stretch. This game would get them back to 500. They're currently 6-7, losing 24-3. After staying in L.A., defeating the Chargers 45-0, they lost to the Rams 24-3 in that. So a very lopsided, very flip-flopped week to week. They're staying in L.A. On the other side of it, with the Miami Dolphins, like you said, trying to make a push against the Kansas City Chiefs. and losing to the Chiefs 33-27, lost by less than a touchdown, made it a game. And Miami's 8-5. They're above the New England Patriots in this. And like you said, Mike, these games are usually good, and these games are usually good when the New England Patriots had Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and they were vying for another Super Bowl, and Miami was a 4-win team. These games were good. Now, Miami's an 8-win team. They've doubled that, and I think this game's going to be even better. And so I'm going to lean on the side of Miami in this matchup, too. I'm going to pick Miami to win the game. Let's get into, the fantasy value. Cam Newton and Jared Sidham. We look at this. Cam's still the starter, but, he's a quarterback, too, at best, in my opinion. Damian Harris, who might have squeaked you out some stuff. He has a back injury, so he's questionable to play. James White had 3 carries. Sony Michel is a third-string guy now. 7 carries in their recent game. Jacoby Myers, not much coming on. And Demir Bird, same thing, 5 grabs. And N'Keal Harry, who was a first-round pick a couple seasons ago, led the pass catchers in the loss. Maybe he's a flex wide receiver 3 for you. There's really nobody that I would like to play on the Patriots. Can't believe I'm saying that, but that's the difference a year makes. Miami Dolphins, Tua in this game is a quarterback 2. DeAndre Washington, not a lot to write home about. Patrick Laird could be a guy for you to put out there as a flex. If Selvin Ahmed isn't able to play, if he is, then Selvin maybe is the guy that you put out there. And then Mac Hollins is a guy that I covered in North Carolina. Not a bad one to look to. Malcolm Perry could be a guy here. There's not a lot of fantasy value in this matchup. A lot of it's in the flex position. I'm going to go with Miami to win this game, but don't expect any fantasy saviors on either one of these teams, I would have to say, in this matchup. I can't see anybody being the reason why you win your fantasy outside of maybe a Tua in the matchup. Chicago at Minnesota, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, this is an interesting game because of the fact that, Minnesota, you would think it would be very cold there. Minnesota's got a closed-roof environment there, so it's not going to be that big a deal. This is scheduled to be a close game, according to Vegas, 3-point spread in favor of the Vikings. I look at the Vikings and I think, wow, this team should be doing better. They should be doing better because they have Dalvin Cook, the number 1 running back this week, number 1 on the rankings, and they should be doing good because, they have Justin Jefferson, number 12, the rookie wide receiver, number 12 on the rankings. Adam Thielen, number 30. Can't really trust in Irv Smith or Kyle Rudolph. Don't know what, one's out, he's hurt, the other one takes over, and then this one's only getting 3 catches, this one's only getting 4 targets. Kirk Cousins has got to play better. He's got to play more consistent. He's number 25 on the rankings. Going over to Chicago, they got a lot of problems, but they have a lot of value here. They have value behind Allen Robinson, number 6 on the wide receiver rankings. Cole Kmet, number 14 on the tight end rankings. David Montgomery, number 10 on the running back rankings. And Mitchell Trubisky, Mitch is back a little bit, primarily because of the play of a Cole Kmet, and Allen Robinson, a David Montgomery. Mitch Trubisky, number 18 on the rankings. I think it's going to be a good, exciting, cold weather teams in a warm environment. I'm going to go with the Vikings at home.
Yeah, this is a game where, both of these teams at some point here might have been screaming to you, maybe they'd be making the playoffs, but we talked about how Chicago felt like a pretender. They started off winning 5 of their first 6 games, and then since then they went on a 6-game losing streak before defeating the Texans 36-7, which shows you where the Texans currently are right now, as we spoke about a little bit earlier. Minnesota is the team to play. Minnesota is the team to pick in this one. In a survivor pool, this game is going to be closer than I'd be comfortable with. Both teams are 6-7, but I'm going to lean on the side of Minnesota. They won the last game 19-13. That game was in Chi-Town. Now this one is in Lake Minnetonka. So I'm going to go with Minnesota in the matchup. On Chicago's side, David Montgomery, not a bad play. I think he's a running back, low end 1, high end 2. In my opinion, the wide receivers are hard to choose anybody in this matchup because there is no, just like with some of the other teams we talked about, there's nobody that sticks out to me or I go, oh yeah, that's the guy that's doing everything, right? And so Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and Anthony Miller are your guys to look to in this matchup. Most recently, And it was Allen Robinson leading the way with 123 yards. David Montgomery, the running back, was next. Then Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, and Anthony Miller were all the way down the list. They only caught 2 passes. They were only targeted twice, caught them both, which is great. Mooney got a touchdown, but not great numbers coming from these guys. So I would say Mooney and Miller are wide receiver 4s. Allen Robinson, let's call him a low end 2, high end 3. David Montgomery, I already told you about him. Cole Kmet, playing him. I like him. He got targeted 7 times. Is the second most, only to Allen Robinson. So Cole Kmet, not a bad low-end tight end 1, high-end tight end 2. On the other side of it, for Minnesota, obviously, Delvin Cook, I don't have to tell you, but I'll tell you because I just will. Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, also worth the play for you. Irv Smith, with Kyle Rudolph injured, he found the end zone in the loss. Irv Smith, I would put him with Cole Kmet, low-end 1, high-end 2 at tight end. But Thielen and Justin Jefferson, and where it lies, Justin Jefferson's been a great rookie addition to the team, and Delvin Cook is obviously who we write home about every single week. Dearest Mommy, Delvin Cook ran for another 200 yards. That's how we feel in this. So Delvin Cook, 100 yards in this most recent one, 4.6 yards a carry, 22 carries, 102 yards, and a touchdown in the game. He also got involved in the passing game with a couple catches. Irv Smith doing his thing. So I do like players on both sides of this, but I'm going to lean on Minnesota to win the matchup. Seattle at Washington. One team has the 12th man, and I mean, they all got the 12th man, but we always hear about the 12th man in Seattle. Well, they're not going to be with the 12th man there. They're going to be with a team, what do they say? A team has no name. So this team really doesn't have a name. Washington is still the football team, and they have a giant W. I guess they can wear that with pride now, since they took down the Pittsburgh Steelers before anybody else did. Now they'll try and take down another Goliath of history when it comes to Russell Wilson and the crew. Not as good as the Steelers this right now, but Seattle is no slouch. What do you have for this one?
Yeah, both teams coming off wins, and they think, we're coming off a win. I know Washington's playing above their ability right now, but relax. You beat the Niners, who could barely field the team. And you look on the other side, Seattle, wow, we really smoked the Jets 40-3. Yeah, well, it was the Jets at your crib. Now, I know you don't have the 12th man there. I've been to that place when the 12th man was in attendance, and that place does rock. I can only imagine that the sound of silence is totally deafening there now. You probably can hear everything. I know they're pumping in that crowd noise even into the stadium and onto your TV dial, so it feels like a real game, but it's not. And I still think it's affecting some players. I don't think it's affecting the Washington defense recently. Seattle's envious of that defense. Chase Young and boys are playing out of their mind, but you're going to primarily be focused on the offensive players, and you're going to focus on them because, well, you're going to make some money in this game. Russell Wilson, number 6 on the quarterback rankings. Chris Carson, number 19 on the running back rankings. Here's where the value is. The wide receivers, these guys are always up there. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, 11 and 19 respectively on the rankings. Washington, Alex Smith, I don't know if he's going to go. He has that calf injury. It's questionable what they're going to do at quarterback if he can't go. So I look at him to go, but again, he's number 30 out of 32 quarterbacks, so you're not going to expect much there. Antonio Gibson, still dinged up. Don't know if he's going to make it. That makes J.D. McKissick number 22 on the running back rankings. Terry McLaurin, number 21 on the wide receiver rankings. And Logan Thomas, number 10 on the tight end rankings. You say, Mike, how can Alex Smith be number 30 and these other moving pieces are rated so high? Well, that's because Seattle has challenges on defense as well. Well, yeah, they only let the Jets put 3 points on them. Again, it was the Jets. Washington's going to be able to put up some points because they have some playmakers, a la Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, and J.D. McKissick. For that reason, I think Washington will make a game of it, but I don't think Russell Wilson's going to let somebody come into his house and teach him how to cook. I'm going to go with Russell and the Seahawks.
Well, they're going to be on the road in Washington, so we don't have to worry about that. So,
oh, my bad.
No,
my bad. You're right.
No, so but Washington in this matchup, it's really it is difficult because this, you would think walking into this, going into the season, that we're just going to say, all right, Seattle, and let's be done with it. But Seattle is 9-4, right? They're not a bad team. But Washington is also getting better as time goes by, right? They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're excelling as time goes by. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They started off the season losing 5 of their first 6 games. They lost at the Cardinals, at the Browns, the Ravens, the Rams, at the Giants. All those games run in the game that were difficult, except for the Giants game at that point. They lost to the Giants again. They lost at the Lions. They had defeated the Eagles and the Cowboys in the division. Now they have wins 4 in a row. Bengals, at Cowboys, at Steelers, at 49ers. They beat the undefeated team Steelers. They went to the West Coast and beat the Niners, who obviously are depleted, but still East Coast, West Coast. You never know what's going to happen sometime in those respects. Washington is making this in a situation where they could actually have a 500 or better record as they lead the division, and we're not going to see a 4-win team have not only a playoff game, but a home playoff game, as Washington looks to go 7-7 if they get this win over Seattle. Seattle being 9-4. Let's go with Seattle first. You got to play Russell Wilson, despite the fact that he's been somewhat underwhelming. DK Metcalf is now the number 1 on the depth chart. Him and Tyler Lockett are worth the play, and so is Carson on that respect for Seattle. On Washington's side of things, Alex Smith is questionable with a calf injury. That puts Dwayne Haskins in a potential starting role, which is not where anybody thought he would be. We thought he'd be a forgotten man. If he gets it, I hope he makes the most of it, because Dwayne Haskins, I think, deserves better than how he was treated. He was drafted high and forgotten quickly, which was very unfortunate, and I hope that he bounces back from that. Antonio Gibson's questionable, which makes J.D. McKissick and Peyton Barber. I don't like either one of these guys. McKissick would be my flex. He'd be a running back 4. Terry McLaurin's proven he could play with any quarterback on the team, I would say, and Dwayne Haskins played with him in college. So I like Terry McLaurin as your lead guy from Washington in this matchup. Seattle has more to give in this, and I'm going to give them a slight edge because of that, because Seattle has a little bit more out there in fantasy, and I believe in reality. I'm going to give it to Seattle, but don't be surprised if this is an overtime game, if this is a tied game, or if this is a game that in general Washington just keeps close, in my opinion. Next up, Jacksonville, 1 win this season, Mike, and guess what? They finally catch a break. They get to play Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, who went bananas on Cleveland and ran up the score there, 47-42, getting the victory over the weekend. This is a team that would not say die, would not lay down by any stretch of the imagination. Baltimore hasn't had the season that we thought they would, but they're 8-5 and they're pushing and they're competitive. 47-42 at Cleveland, they get that dub. And, that's great for a Jacksonville team that's been atrocious this year. Thank goodness they only have to play Baltimore. In Baltimore. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Baltimore had a great game. That Cleveland game was excellent. I almost want to go back and watch it again. And NFL Network did repeat that game. My son and I had the opportunity to watch that game together. He's a big Ravens fan, and that we even said during the game we were calling out some of the records as far as rushing touchdowns, and Lamar goes in dramatic Hollywood style into the locker room with so-called cramps, and then his teammate Robert Griffin III. He ends up putting out a Twitter showing his speed. He puts out a meme on Twitter showing his speed after he goes and takes a poop, is what he said. So it's pretty funny stuff, because that's one of the things that it looked like was happening. And then poor Trace McSorley comes in the game and he hurts himself, and then, like a hero coming out of the injury, the medical tent, the medical facility in the stadium. He comes running out on the field and runs out and leads his team to a score. It's back and forth. What a game that was. On the other side of the ball, well, not so much, because, Jacksonville got owned once again by Derrick Henry. Every time Derrick Henry plays the Jags, he's running for like a 40, 50, 60, 80-yard touchdown. He gets 200 yards and multiple touchdowns. Embarrassing Jacksonville. I remember the days where that game meant something. I remember the days when that game was on Thursday night and it meant something. Not anymore. You know what they're going to do in Jacksonville? They're going to welcome back Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew, welcome back. Here's the Ravens. What a welcome back party. What a thoughtful gift, the Ravens. You know what they're going to have success with? They're going to have some success with running the ball, because James Robinson has been a top 10 running back all year, the undrafted rookie from Illinois State, number 6 on the rankings this week. Gardner Minshew is going to be ranked number 23. I can't start any tight ends. I can't start any wide receivers. DJ Chark, the highest ranked one, number 43 on the rankings. Going over to Baltimore, Lamar Jackson's the man. And he's the man because he's got some great players around him. But even if he didn't have those players, he'd still be the man in fantasy. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. He does incredible things. Number 3 on the quarterback rankings this week. And that's the same ranking I have for Mark Andrews, the outstanding tight end. Number 3 on the tight end rankings. J.K. Dobbins more or less taking things over. If you watch Ravens, they start with Mark Ingram. Takes the first series, takes the first couple games. Plays, and then you don't see him again. Then it's a mixture of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, and Gus Edwards is the winner in that. Number 28 on the rankings this week. Gus Edwards, 52. Marquise Brown, 47. May sneak in a touchdown, but you can't count on that cat. I'm going to stick with Lamar Jackson. I'm going to stick with Mark Andrews, and I'm going to stick with the Ravens to win this game.
Yeah, for a team that doesn't know how to stop the run, again, thank goodness they only have to play Baltimore with a running quarterback. And a team that leans on the run and says they're going to run the ball and then continues to run it down your throat. You know what's an issue that people don't give Jacksonville maybe some slack for that they should? They've had 5 kickers in 5 weeks. Josh Lambo's the dude, okay? He gets it done. But he's been hurt. So Jacksonville's had to go from kicker to kicker to kicker to kicker to kicker to kicker. Okay, it's happened. Brandon Wright, Chase McLaughlin. We look at Josh Lambo when he was healthy. Stephen Hauschka, Aldrich Rosas. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. John Brown didn't even attempt to kick in the NFL before. It's been insane. It's been ridiculous. So you look at all these close games and you say, well, why didn't this? Why isn't Jacksonville, winning? They're competitive. Why aren't they winning? Because they don't have a kicker. They don't have the guy that can boot that field goal and send the game home. It's not happening, right? They lose to Minnesota in overtime by 3. They lose to Cleveland by 2. They lose to Green Bay by 4. They lose to Houston by 2. Look back at those games. Think about those games. If they had a kicker that they could trust in, those games could have went the other way. This past week against Tennessee, not so much. They were 33-30 at Tennessee when Tennessee came into town, 31-10. And you don't want to get worse the second time around. You want to get better. Well, Jacksonville did not. So, I'm obviously going with the Ravens in this matchup. Gardner Minshew's back at quarterback, which means that DJ Chark is back as a guy that you need to put out there in fantasy as a wide receiver too. Doesn't mean Colin Johnson will be forgotten. It just means he doesn't have his guy. He doesn't have Mike Glennon out there with him. So Laviska Shenault, he is a wide receiver 4. DJ Chark, a wide receiver 2. James Robinson, no matter what this Jacksonville team has done, he's been one of the best fantasy running backs in the NFL. Not in Jacksonville, in the NFL. Remember that. Hopefully that continues. James Robinson, definitely worth the play. And outside of that, on Baltimore's side, Lamar Jackson. Marquise Hollywood Brown, he's a low-end 2, high-end 3 because he's not consistent. Mark Andrews is worth the play, and Lamar Jackson is worth the play. Outside of that, when we look at it, J.K. Dobbins had a touchdown. Gus Edwards had 2. So I would say with J.K., he's worth the play. Gus is a flex. Gus is still a running back 4, maybe a 3. J.K. a low-end 2, in my opinion. Mark Andrews leading the way with receptions as a tight end. That tells you exactly what Mike and I have been saying all year. Mark Andrews is the guy that you need to trust and lean on the most in Baltimore's passing game. I got Baltimore winning the game. Next one up, Jets at the Rams. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, this one's an easy one. If you have Jets, don't play them. If you have Rams, play them. Look, if you have Jets on your team, you're not playing anyway. You're not in the playoffs in your league. How can you have won any games with Sam Darnold and company, Josh Adams, Frank Gore, Michael Pirani, Ty Johnson, Crowder, Perryman, Mims, Chris Herndon? None of these guys are on the fantasy radar at all. You look on the other side of the ball. This is where your money's at this week. You know that. You always, if you're in a Survivor league, you always pick against the Jets. Well, you do the same thing in fantasy. You play the guys that are playing the Jets. Jared Goff, number 11 on the quarterback rankings. Cam Akers, number 13. Cooper Kupp, 23 on the rankings. Robert Woods, number 8. And Tyler Higbee, 21. This is an easy one. It's a blowout for the Rams. It's easy money for you. Play these guys in daily fantasy as well. I'm taking the Rams.
Well, after the Rams just took down the Patriots at home, they will now have the Jets visit them at home, and I don't imagine the Jets are going to be more competition than the Patriots were, and the Patriots weren't competition for these Rams who have, again, like a fine wine, gotten better with time. So, the Jets, who are you going to play? Nobody. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. Why? Because Sam Darnold's still seeing ghosts, okay? But with that being said, let's head off to the Rams, and let's talk about it. Jared Goff worth the play because of the matchup. Cam Akers worth the play because of the matchup. Darrell Henderson is another guy out here, and that you could look at potential. Malcolm Brown's going down. Darrell Henderson, I would say, is a running back 3. Cam Akers, now he's the 1. He was the 3. Very confusing with the Rams. They got to figure this out in the offseason. But Cam Akers, a running back 2. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are worth the play, and Higbee, I would say, is worth the play as well. Gerald Everett, somebody that you can look to as a emergency flex and a tight end too in that situation. But I'm putting the value on the Rams to win this game. I would not imagine that the Jets are going to make this a tough one for the Rams. Next game that we have up on the docket before we take our final step aside, inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, is where you go for the indoor dining. You can also do curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery at 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat. Now more than ever, make sure you're supporting local and supporting the companies in our community that may have those national and international names that have been very local and ingrained themselves in our community, like Chick-fil-A Cicero, Honda City of Liverpool, and, of course, Carvel DeWitt. Philadelphia at Arizona, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, I don't know if the Eagles should be happy with that win that they got last week at home against the Saints, but it was against the Saints, who's a better team. You expected the Saints to go in there and win. Eagles are without a bunch of offensive linemen. Eagles haven't looked good all year. I think the Saints let Philadelphia win more than Philadelphia earned that win. Their defense collapsed on them. New Orleans tried to make a game of it at the end, but it was just too high a hill to climb. So looking at this, though, Arizona coming off the big win against the Giants, they're going to continue their winning ways. I think they're going to bring the Eagles back to reality. Kyler Murray, number 2 on the quarterback rankings. Kenyon Drake, number 18, and Chase Edmonds, number 32. DeAndre Hopkins, the steal of the century, the steal of the deal guy, the big trade. Number 10 on the wide receiver rankings, Christian Kirk, 44. Can't start Dan Arnold, number 32 on the rankings. On the other side of the ball, though, Philly, there's still some value here. That's because both these teams are going to be able to put up some points. That's because of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, I'm not taking anything away from Jalen Hurts and what he did for the team, but statistically he wasn't an anomaly. What he did was he gave them that mental advantage. This was a guy that the team felt they could win behind. Carson Wentz has lost that team, and because of that, you got a guy like Jalen Hurts, number 15 on the quarterback rankings. And don't forget, he's got a great running game with Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders put up over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. Look for him to do the same this week, number 15 on the rankings. And Dallas Goddard's the man. He's the only one catching the ball. Maybe a Boston Scott out of the backfield, but I can't trust any of these wide receivers on the Eagles. Dallas Goddard, number 5 on the rankings this week. I'm going to go with Arizona to win an exciting game. I think this game's going to be more exciting than people think. I got Arizona.
I'm excited for the nest, Philadelphia and the Cardinal. Which one is going to stay perched in that nest? I think it's going to be the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to agree with you, Mike, and I'm going to say Arizona in this matchup over the Eagles. But I think it's going to be a good game because Jalen Hurts is breathing some life into the team. Obviously, the team has come out and some players were not happy with the move, but they know it's not Jalen Hurts' fault, and they know it's not Jalen Hurts' decision. So obviously, they got behind him and found a way to win over a team that I think very well could be in this year's Super Bowl, or this season's Super Bowl, I should say. with the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about the potential foreshadowing of the Super Bowl with the next game, Kansas City at New Orleans. But with Philadelphia first at Arizona. Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, 167 yards passing, 106 yards rushing. This is what makes it fun and exciting. I like Jalen Hurts in the matchup. I like Miles Sanders because as much as Jalen Hurts had 18 carries, Miles still had 14, still had over 100 yards, 8.2 yards a carry, thank you, and 2 touchdowns in this. Jalen Reagor and Dallas Goddard were the guys that led the way. Greg Ward got some action too, and Alshon Jeffrey only had 1 catch, 1 target, but he had a touchdown. If Jalen Reagor is the guy for Jalen Hurts, they're both rookies. Jalen and Jalen could be a match, could be something in fantasy that could help you later on here in the season. So Reagor, I would say, is a wide receiver 3, maybe a low end 2 if there's consistency with Jalen Hurts moving forward. Dallas Goedert's worth the play. Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts on that side of it. For Arizona, I would tell you that Kyler Murray, I don't have to, but I will. Kyler Murray, Kenyon Drake, DeAndre Hopkins, all worth the play for you. Those are the guys I feel most comfortable about, and those are the ones I'm going to stick to. The next, and I'm going to pick Arizona to win the game. The next one here, Mr. Sofka, is like I said, this could be the precursor to the Super Bowl. This could be what we're going to see in just a few months again. Kansas City at New Orleans, what do you got?
Yeah, I would have thought that too before last week, and New Orleans went out and laid an egg. I don't think that Taysom Hill is doing a bad job, but he's not Drew Brees, and I don't think Drew Brees is Drew Brees anymore either. So I think they're just keeping him, making sure he's 100% healthy with all those separation on the ribs that he had. That's not an easy thing to even breathe, let alone play football, let alone expose your ribs and taking cracks from linemen on the other side of the ball. Look, Kansas City's the better team here. New Orleans can't play like they did last week. Their defense needs to tighten up. New Orleans is led by Taysom Hill, number 9 on the quarterback rankings. And, of course, they're led by Alvin Kamara, number 4 on the running back rankings. Michael Thomas seems to be coming back to Michael Thomas days when he was with Drew Brees. I think he's starting to connect with Taysom Hill. That makes him number 14 on the wide receiver rankings. Jared Cook, not so much. Very spotty as of late. Can't trust him, but he checks in at number 24 on the rankings. The tight end you want, you already know this. On the other side of the ball, Travis Kelce, number 1 tight end all year long. Number 1 again for this game. He's being fed the ball by, Patrick Mahomes, number 1 quarterback. And, he throws the ball as well to Tyreek Hill, number 2 on the wide receiver rankings. And the CEH, Clyde the Glide, checking in at number 20 on the running back rankings. All the power, all the money, everything is on Kansas City side. But this game is in New Orleans. New Orleans usually plays better at home, but that's with Drew Brees. I look for Kansas City to roll up on the Saints in this one. I know they're only favored by 3, but it is what it is. You see all that talent, you see all those weapons. I'm going with all those weapons. I'm going with the Chiefs.
I got to go with the Chiefs in this one, too. You know, the Chiefs, just to me, are going to bring more to the table. The Saints reeling from a loss to Philadelphia, and so I have to lean on the Chiefs as they get set for this matchup. I think that they're going to have more, and I think they have more in general. And, if this was Drew Brees, like you said, Drew Brees hasn't been Drew Brees this season, and that's affected the team. They've obviously won. Taysom Hill's done some good stuff, but at the end of the day, the Chiefs are the better team. I will agree with you. In my opinion, I do feel that way as well. So with that being stated, let's hop into the matchup. And first and foremost with Kansas City on the road. These are names that you should already know. If you know them and you got them, then you're probably feeling pretty good right now. And you're probably in good footing in your fantasy playoffs as well if you have Kansas City Chiefs on your team. So let's start with Kansas City. Pat Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as well as Tyreek Hill, all worth the play for you, and Travis Kelce. Sammy Watkins had 2 catches recently. Demarcus Robinson, not much. And taking a look at McCole Hardman, he scored as a returner. So McCole is a sneaky wide receiver 4, but Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Pat Mahomes are worth the play. On the other side of it for you for New Orleans, I still would put out in this situation Taysom Hill. The Chiefs are going to try to figure him out, but we know the Chiefs can give up points too. So I would say Taysom Hill's worth the play. Alvin Kamara as well. Michael Thomas worth the play for you. And outside of that, there isn't too much to write home about. Jared Cook, I would say is a low-end 1, high-end 2 at tight end, and I'm going to go with Kansas City. With that being said, before we get to Sunday and Monday Night Football, Mike and I are going to take a step aside. The NFL finally started listening and has been using their flex to flex out games and switch them around and make it a better thing to watch. So Cleveland at the Giants. Giants still a playoff contending team. Cleveland in good footing right now. So some good stuff coming up here as Cleveland will play at the New York Giants. And then Monday night will be Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. So we'll see if Pittsburgh cannot lose 3 games in a row. And we'll see what Cincinnati can do without Joe Burrow. And looking at this, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati all being on Sunday and Monday night mean that prime time for Sunday and Monday for this week of football will be 3 out of 4 teams inside of the AFC North, and not including Baltimore as the only team there. So with that being stated, inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, we will take a step aside, Mike and I, and in the meantime, make sure you join our fantasy football group, Winning Fantasy Football, and you bookmark Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com as well as WakeUpCallDT.com. We'll be back right after this to wrap up this week of Fantasy Football.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecabal.com. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you download their app and head out there Tuesday through Sunday to the Millhouse Market. And the app, very user-friendly, contactless pay, and they will let you know as soon as you put in the order on the app and pay for everything. It'll send you an email confirming your order and send you an email letting you know the approximate exact time that your food will be done. You drive up to the window, grab your food, and go, keeping it easy, safe, efficient, and of course those flavors amazing. With the concoctions, combinations you would never even think of, the Millhouse Market is the place to be, and they are here in our community, which I feel so blessed. Whether you're 30 miles away, a mile away, an hour away, whatever it may be, trust me when I tell you that Millhouse Market is worth the drive every time to 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. With that being stated, Mike Stofka and I are here for Sunday and Monday Night Football to wrap up this week of our Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. There for you for indoor dining as well as 315-487-2222 to get in touch with them for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery. We're inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Mike and I, 2 more games. Here we go. They flexed it out and moved it from Sunday to Sunday during the day to Sunday night. Cleveland at the Giants. What do you got, Mr. Sofka?
Yeah, if you're still if you're in your playoffs and hopefully you win this week, maybe your streaming defenses. This is a defense you want to take. You want to take Cleveland because they're playing the Giants, and then next week, championship week, they'll play the Jets. So definitely a defense that you want to see. Yeah, I know they let Baltimore score a lot of points, but you had to watch that game. If you haven't seen that game, go back and watch it. It'll be replayed again and again. I'm sure they're saying it's one of the best games in a long time. Look, Cleveland is led by, of course, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, yeah, he's had fun doing a lot of those commercials, and he looks great, doing all these commercials. He's still got to play to win the game, and last week he played to win the game, and against most other teams, he would have had enough. Well, the Giants, up until the last week's game, had been playing well enough to win their division, even though they're going to have that losing record as the division winner from the NFC East probably is going to. But there's some fantasy value on both sides of the ball here. You just got to look for it. Let me tell you where it's at. It's with Evan Ingram, number 7 on the tight end rankings. It's with Wayne Gallman, number 17. Sterling Shepard will be number 34 on the wide receiver rankings. And is it going to be Daniel Jones? Is it going to be Colt McCoy? It's probably going to be Daniel Jones, number 24 on the rankings. On the other side of the ball, you're going to have to really search here for the power, because I really don't think Baker's going to have as good of a game as he did against the Ravens. The Giants' defense has been playing somewhat well, but he's going to be led behind that rushing attack. Nick Chubb, number 14 on the rankings. Kareem Hunt, number 23. Jarvis Landry, the only wide receiver I think, worth playing, is number 15 on the rankings. But watch out for Donovan Peoples-Jones. He seems to be showing up at the right times. Maybe that's a sneaky pick for you in daily. Austin Hooper, number 17 on the tight end ranking. So there's some hits and misses on both sides of the ball here, fantasy-wise. But I got to go with Cleveland. I just don't see how the Giants can beat them. Yeah, I know it's in Rutherford. I know it's at the MetLife. I know it's going to be 39 degrees. Cleveland plays in bad weather all the time as well. I think Cleveland's not going to have, a hangover from that loss against the Ravens. I think they're going to continue putting up points, and I think they're going to get past this Giant defense. I think Cleveland's going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Cleveland in this one as well to win this game. I don't feel good about choosing the Giants in this matchup. There's something. Do I think the Giants will make it competitive? Sure. But, Cleveland was just competitive with Baltimore. And I don't see the Giants being on that level. So in this matchup, to start with Cleveland, the road team, let's figure that out. Let's make that happen. Here's the cool thing. It would have been cool. Odell Beckham Jr., now a Cleveland Brown, could have gone up against his old team here. But because he will not be able to play, that's not going to happen. Obviously, prayers and well wishes go his way that he is back at it and ready to go, hopefully sooner than later. In this matchup, Baker Mayfield, he's okay. He wasn't great in the game for Cleveland, 47-42 that they lost at home to Baltimore. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. The value lies with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt led the team in receiving yards. He was there in the top 3 in targets. Rashard Higgins was 10 targets. Jarvis Landry, 9. Kareem Hunt, 7. He caught 6 of them, 77 yards and a touchdown. Plus he had a rushing touchdown. Nick Chubb had 2 touchdowns on the ground, and he had 2 catches on his 2 targets. So the value lies, and I love seeing this, and I think this could only develop against a team like the Giants, where you can essentially kind of try some things out because they're not as great of a team. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, you can kind of open it up a little bit there. I like them the most on the Browns. Jarvis Landry, not a bad play. Rashard Higgins, not a bad flex play for you because they're playing the Giants. And Baker Mayfield, I still think of him as a quarterback 2, in my opinion. On the other side of it, for the Giants, it's okay. The Giants could score 7 points, could score 10 points in this game. I don't see anything crazy happening here. They just lost to the Cardinals 26-7. I would tell you, Wayne Gallman, running back 3. I don't trust any of the receivers. The most value, I agree with Mike, is with Evan Ingram. So I'd play him. That's it. I'm picking the Browns. It's as simple as that. Steelers at the Bengals. What do you got?
Yeah, normally you would want to load up on all the Steelers, but the Steelers haven't been able to move the ball. They haven't been able to run the ball. They haven't been able to do the things that make the Steelers, and that's why they've been struggling in the past couple games. I think it's going to be a get-right game for them. I know it's in Cincinnati, and it is what it is. The Steelers are the better team across the board. Ben Roethlisberger, number 14 on the quarterback rankings, and Eric Ebron, number 6 on the tight end rankings, and Juju Smith-Schuster, number 25. Deontay Johnson was doing well for a while, but he leads the NFL in drops. He's not playing well. Chase Claypool's spotty, and James Conner. They just can't seem to run the ball. They're able to pass protect better than they can run the ball. So James Conner down to a number 35 on the rankings. On the other side of the ball, the only guy I would really play maybe is T. Higgins, number 24, Tyler Boyd, 39, Giovanni Bernard, number 38 on the rankings, and Brandon Allen, if he makes the start, if it's not Brian Finley, 31 on the rankings. So I really can't play anybody from Cincinnati. This game should be all Pittsburgh, so I'm going with the Steelers.
Yeah, I got to go with the Steelers in this one, too. I would be shocked and just really thrown off if Cincinnati somehow found a way to win this game, because they don't have Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow was keeping them in games. He was making it interesting down the stretch, and he was doing it against some teams that were pretty good or have some talent that may be good in the future. So for Pittsburgh, you got to play Big Ben in this one. James Conner is questionable with a quad injury. If he's able to play, you play him. If not, Jalen Samuels is your best bet. You play Juju, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool, flex guys for me right now. We had Deontay dropping balls. Claypool was targeted 6 times in the game. Eric Ebron, not a bad play. Lower end, mid-range to lower end, 1 at tight end. Juju, a guy worth playing. Like I said, Chase, Deontay, flex guys for you. James Washington, a flex guy. Jalen Samuels, if James Conner doesn't go. Ben Roethlisberger, worth the play. On the other side of it, I agree with you, Mike. I like T. Higgins, and that's pretty much it. It's T. Higgins and good night from Cincinnati. So that's really all, and that's what I'm looking to in this matchup. But like I said, I'm going with the Steelers in this. I think, Mike, I think you and I agreed on every single game in this group here. I don't think there's one game we disagreed on. I'm double checking to make sure. So we're either going to be 100% right or 100% wrong, because we did pick every game the same, which is different from past years, but that's what we did here. And so we're on the same wavelength. With that being stated, Mr. Sofka, as always, I appreciate you. I send you my love and my well wishes. Please stay safe, stay well, and hopefully I'll get my butt down to Florida soon, and you and I can catch up with each other, and your beard can talk to my goatee for a little while. Maybe we could do a show just from the nose down and call it Goatee and the Beard and see what that turns out to be.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that, and I think the sky's the limit when you talk about the beard, when you talk about the goatee. So there's a lot of upside there, high ceiling. Look, make sure you go to our Facebook group, Winning Fantasy Football. And congratulations. If you're listening to us, you probably made the playoffs, and we're happy for you. Now let's get a W and get you in the championship. We'll talk to you next time, Dan. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. I'll talk to you soon. That coming from Mr. Sofka. Once again, Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com is where you need to go, as well as WakeUpCallDT.com. And, of course, make sure you join us on our joint venture of Winning Fantasy Football. All you have to do on Facebook is type in Winning Fantasy Football. Click on our group, join it, and it's all set and ready to go. I want to thank Julian Wiggum for joining me on National Signing Day. Mike joining me for Fantasy Football in the Power Hour, brought to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub. I want to thank you for being a part of the show, and I want to let you know once again that National Signing Day, I got specials galore coming your way. You want to stay close to us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, on the Twitter at Call DT, and on Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.com, because Josh Huff, Terry Lockett, Wes Ho, Kendall Long, Malcolm Folk, Enrique A. Cruz Jr., Landon Morris, Justin Lamson, Deuce Chestnut, and potentially more will be joining me in this National Signing Day. Each of these players signing with Syracuse, getting their own specials directly to you. Other people may talk to them, other people may interview them, but nothing will be what it's going to be here on Wake Up Call. I can promise you that. We do things differently here. So live from the Cafe Kubal studios, I want to thank you, and I want to implore you to stay close to us on social media and not miss a moment of our National Signing Day festivities, as I will have one-on-one conversations with Josh Huff, Terry Lockett, Wes Ho, Kendall Long, Malcolm Folk, Enrique A. Cruz Jr., Landon Morris, Justin Lamson, Deuce Chestnut, and potentially more here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And make sure that you're watching and listening the rest of this week, and always Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find us here on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, as well as on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. T. And, of course, the videos then go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And they also go to the audio areas of Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Podbean, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, all by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or by searching Wake Up Call DT as one word. Thanks to all of our partners in the community. Now more than ever, it is important to reach out to them and to help them out. Cafe Cubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, Chick-fil-A, Cicero, Avicolli's. Go to myavicolli's.com. That's myavicollis.com and get 10% off by using the promo code AVS10. That's AVS10. K9 Camp Dog Daycare, K9 Campground Dog Boarding, Honda City of Liverpool, Trapper's Pizza Pub, Millhouse Market, and Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Go to maandpazpopcorn.com, their website. And whether you're ordering for in-store pickup or you're having it sent out to you in any of the 50 states, you can go online to maandpazpopcorn.com. Use my promo code DT20 and get 20% off. That's DT20, DT20 online at maandpazpopcorn.com. Have a great day. God bless. No stress. Do your best as always. And make sure in this National Signing Day special that you are locked in. If you haven't liked our page at Wake Up Call DT on Facebook, if you're not following me on Twitter at CallDT or Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, if you haven't bookmarked and become a free member of WakeUpCallDT.com, what are you waiting for? Do it. National Signing Day specials galore coming up to you. One-on-one conversations with the future of Syracuse football coming your way. It is National Signing Day. This is the hometown, and Wake Up Call is the place to be. I'll talk with you soon. God bless you all, and be well.